verses 10 and 11. Finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. The title of our lesson continues to be demonic distraction. I'm not promising you any more installments after today. I'm not promising that, but I do want to talk to you just a little further. I believe it's the Lord's will for us to talk about this just a little further for the benefit of some who've been with us to receive greater clarity and insight and conviction and blessing, and for some who have not been with us to get a hold of it before we transition into whatever else we'll be teaching in days to come. So again, the title of the lesson is demonic distraction. Now, obviously, I don't want you to be demonically distracted. I never shall forget, I went to a church, and I don't know what came over me, but I think it was just my propensity to try to be a little bit poetic in titles and such. And so I was going to teach about the things that we do that keep God from being able to bless in our lives the way that he wants to bless. All right? Now, no human being, no being has more power than God has. I hope you're clear on that. I mean, pre-K, you ought to know that there's nobody greater than God. Okay? But because of how he operates, you can hinder his move in your life. Now, do you understand those two things don't contradict one another? That even though he is all-powerful, but he is limited by certain decisions that we make in terms of how he is able to affect and impact our lives individually. Does that sound contradictory? Does it sound like I'm contradicting myself to say on the one hand that God is all-powerful, but then to turn around and say on the other hand that you can cause limitation in terms of what he's able to do in your individual life? Does that sound like I'm contradicting myself? Okay, it's not intended to be contradictory. God is universally able to do whatever he has sovereignly chosen to do. But because he gave human beings free will or free moral agency or a measure of self-determination, whichever term you want to use, then he limits himself. It's not so much that we control him, no, but he limits himself by his own character. Just like if you are a lady or a gentleman and you ask someone for something, if that person doesn't give it to you, if you're a lady or gentleman, you don't take it from them. You just move on to the next possible source or resource, right? But even so, God, he asked us to let him in and cooperate with him in being a blessing. But if we don't let him, he's not going to just kick the door down and come on and no. What did he say in Revelation 3:20? Behold, I stand at the door and knock. Well, if he's going to kick the door down, what's he knocking for? People have this idea that God will just do any. Listen, if you don't get anything out of this lesson today, if you get this piece, it'll bless you. People think that God, anything he wills to do, he just up and does it. That's a mistake. If God's will was always done, then every nasty thing you've ever done, you'd have never done it. Every sin I've ever committed, I never would have committed because that's not God's will. If God's will is always done, why are you and I both witnesses of things in our personal lives that have been done that were not his will? No, take your religious glasses off. Just think about it for a moment. You can keep your other glasses. I'm talking about your religious perspective. Keep your other glasses on so you can see. I'm saying, don't fall for that myth that says anything God wants, God gets. No, that's not true. If God's will was always done, every sinner would already be saved. His will for the whole universe and the whole cosmos, oh yeah, that's going to ultimately be done. But he has given individuals the right to choose some things as it pertains to their walk. You need to know that because it does two things. Number one, it empowers you. Secondly, it holds you responsible and takes the blame off God. Because, many times people say, well, why God let that happen? Or why God do that to me? Or, are you sure that was God? Are you sure that was God? I'm going to step into something here just a moment. I'll be back out of it, I guess. Sometimes when it comes to the issue of homosexuality, people say, well, why are you harping on homosexuality? And we shouldn't. We should preach about all sin from a biblical perspective. There's no one sin that is going to, let's see, how can I say it? Because, no, you don't want me to lie because you've been told a lie about that too. I'll come back to it. There's no one sin that can be held up as a nice sin, and this is a not so nice sin. All of them are terrible. Okay. Now, let me tell you the lie you've been told about that. One sin just bad as the next one. Ain't no sin no worse than no other sin. That's another religious lie. Oh, it sounds good. Sounds good. It's a lie. You want to prove it? Go to the book of John, chapter 18. And that's not the only one. We can also go to 1 John, I believe it's chapter 5, but definitely this Gospel of John, chapter 18. Lord have mercy. It's all right. Let's rush. Let's rush to this. I said 18, 19. John 19. Verse 10. God is in control. Keep trying to lift your hand. Then why are you able to keep doing what you do in spite? God's not controlling you. When you cussed, was God controlling you? God's not a controller. And any of you that have a controlling spirit, that's demonic. That's not of God. God is an organizer. He's a strategist, but he's not a controller. Because where there is control, to the extent there is control, to that extent there is the absence of love. Love is not coercive. If God was in control, nobody would be in hell. If God were in control, Lucifer never would have rebelled. He never would have let him rebel. He didn't want Lucifer to take a third of the heavenly host, cause all this pain and war and suffering. Adam and Eve would never have sinned if God had been controlling them. No, he's given you a measure of self-determination. So, all right, Brother Blue, go back to the homosexual thing. She said that they were born this way. Fine. So what you're trying to say is that God made you that way because you believe you were born that way. But you must remember, all of us were born sinners. And God did not make us sinners. It was a man and a woman who chose to disobey God. So all of us are born out of the will of God. So if you were able to prove that homosexuality came at birth, you ain't saying nothing. We were all born in sin, and therefore all must be born again. So to say you were born that way, you're not building your case, you're building our case. That we were all born twisted. Some of the twists manifest as lying. Some of the twists manifest as theft. Some of the twists manifest as murder. And we must all be born again. What did Romans 3:23 say? For all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. Are you with us? And so our God, being the God who gives us latitude, gives us free moral agency, the God who gives us choice and then tells us what the right choice is, but leaves it to us to make whichever one we make. Moses said, he said, behold, I set before you the way of life and the way of death. Choose life that you may live and that it may be well with you and your descendants. But he said, I got to put both of them before you.